So as I said, today we are talking about fostering stronger and better youth participation and exploring two ways that digitalization can contribute to that. So firstly, Aleksandra Mangus will talk with us about how to foster stronger participation with the help of stronger media literacy. And then Michele Di Paola will talk with us about using video games for that same kind of end goal of a stronger culture and stronger practice of participation. So that being said, without further ado, I will end my screen share here and I will let Aleksandra begin with the first input of the day. Aleksandra, please, the floor is yours.
Great. Thank you. Thank you guys for the introduction. It's my pleasure to be here today and be talking to you. So let me just quickly share my screen. I have a few slides to show. As I believe I have about 20 minutes to go. So let's see how I fit in. Okay. Is everything all right with the screen?
Perfect.
Yeah, great. Okay, let's move on. So some of you might remember me from the past working for the TCA Making Youth Participation Visible for SALTO PI, where SALTO PI and the national agencies co-created communication strategies around the participation and various resources for the youth sector, such as the participation resource pool, the flagship projects collection, the SALTO Awards. Also earlier on, I organized youth hackathons focused on media information literacy, the largest of which was the Global Mill Hack of 2018 and its follow-up program that were both supported by UNESCO. This was in particular the case study for my master thesis that I wrote in University of Tampere in Finland, where I basically proved the connection and the influence of the maker culture activities such as hackathons and media information literacy. Also, I worked throughout the last year on researching on how media information literacy and youth participation are represented in youth projects throughout the key actions of the Erasmus Plus and the European Solidarity Corps programs. And in collaboration with another two great people connected to SALTO, we have published a report on that. And we also presented that during the media information literacy study visit in Barcelona last year. So those of you that were there or who watched the presentation might just freshen their memories today, as I will be referring to that work later today as well. These slides I hope will be shared with you, and here I included the links to the work I've done before so you can get more familiar with what I will be talking today about. So let's start with how media literacy can foster stronger youth participation, and my answer to you today is digital citizenship. Let's first define it and then kind of break it down into more comprehensible concepts. So I took this definition of digital citizenship from the Council of Europe, and it states that it is digital engagement, digital responsibility, and digital participation brought about through the critical analysis and the competent use of digital technology, underpinned by the concept of citizenship founded on respect for human rights and democratic culture. Okay, that's a big one. So let's just break it down to the way, well, that I see it at least. When we're talking about media information literacy, we are talking about the specific set of skills, such as critical thinking, for example, or understanding how media work, and the variety of tools that we use to participate in the society. for example, social media, print media, and so on. And with the usage of that come the rights to the freedom of speech, for example, or cybersecurity, being safe online, and there come the responsibilities, copyrights, being ethics or inclusion or so on. Digital citizenship requires action from the citizens. And as in normal democracy, the young people need to be heard, they need to put forward their agendas, they need to collaborate and take action on the matters that are important to them, and be acknowledged and rewarded for those actions. And here comes, here is an important point where the maker culture comes into play. It is the culture of collaboration, competitiveness, on-the-spot innovation, intercultural dialogue, and construction of one's learning path. Meaning that the knowledge is not ready-made, but rather created during the learning process. And here I would like to to prompt you to think about the Erasmus Plus and the European Solidarity Corps projects as in a way as the maker activities. I mean, I would like to draw parallels between the projects that get started by the young people and with the help, of course, of other organizations, partners, and youth workers. They get created just like the innovations and the artifacts are created during the maker activities such as hackathons that I have been referring to in my thesis. Let's move on, and I'll just pinpoint the two very crucial touch points between media information literacy and the maker activities. And the first one being that both of them stimulate the development of the 21st century skills. This is where the maker scenarios that we have in the activity in projects or in the hackathons, they go parallel with the participatory methods in middle education. For example, during the process, makers learn how to search and how to choose appropriate information, how to apply it in order to solve problems, how to communicate and collaborate with the community, and how to evaluate one's own practice. And the second touch point here on the slide as well is the citizenship through participation in maker activities. And here I put very big emphasis on that issue-oriented hackathons or themed projects in Erasmus Plus and European Solidarity Corps put focus on vital social issues that often are politicized in the media. And they apply it into a particular context that the projects are created in. And so by making a decision to join a hackathon or to join a project in Erasmus Plus or European Solidarity Corps on a particular issue, the participant, the young participant, identifies his or herself with the issue and becomes an active part of the civic discussion on the local or on the international level, depending on the scale of the event. Since hackathons are usually open to public events, they serve as a great arena for showing what the participants really cares about and finding like-minded people within and across cultures, which involves also the intercultural dialogue. And again, if we're thinking now through the prism of Erasmus Plus and European Solidarity Corps projects, those are very international, and given my own collected sort of impression from the projects that I've seen that participated in SALTO Awards, for example, or that that get accepted into Erasmus Plus and European Solidarity Corps programs each year. These are very much intercultural, often are intercultural. So I wanted to present you the learning outcomes of such maker activity as a global media information literacy hackathon that I had as a case study for my thesis, but also just for you to understand what are sort of the key benefits of having such activities incorporated in of fostering the youth participation. There are a lot of buildings here, so on the slide you will see a lot of buildings. So let me just go through these and maybe comment a little bit more in each one of them. So building collaborative intercultural skills, well, that is what I was mentioning just before. Building flexibility and adaptability through experiencing ad hocism. Maybe that term is new for you, but basically what it means is being flexible and making changes on the go, because there is a lot of iteration, as in every, even like if we take Erasmus Plus and European Solidarity Corps projects, maybe there is a plan, of course, the activities are planned and everything, but give me a project that never been altered during the way. So there is a way, or there is a method for the organizers, for the young people who usually get involved in actual management of those projects, to learn how to be flexible and to make the changes on the go, and how to boost their adaptability. Then building self-regulation through autonomous learning and reflection. That is meaning that usually in projects and in hackathons, teams are very much how to say self-led. And when we're talking about the projects in Erasmus Plus and European Solidarity Corps, we also are looking mostly at the teams that have a say in how they want to do the projects, how they want to go about the activities. And so it's very important also to give them an opportunity for self-reflection during the process and after the project is finished. Also, moving on my list, next one is building media literacy skills through critical understanding of issues. So in every of course, like every project has an objective, or if every hackathon, a themed hackathon, of course, have some sort of main themes. Like in Global Meal Hack, we had themes like children in media and their safety, or international dialogues, or some other ones, cybersecurity related, for example. And just by focusing their attention on such topics, on such themes, you get to learn about them just naturally. Next one is building creativity through problem solving and design. Problem solving being a huge one, because just like in any project as well, the teams are finding solutions and going along or iterating those scenarios into about doing some things. And there is a lot of design thinking during the process, where you have to kind of, where you have a goal and then you find a way to reach it. So it's very creative, and it boosts those skills. Then building global citizenship as a sense of belonging to a broader community. This is what I was talking earlier about digital citizenship. It's where you you finally you have a way of influencing some project, or I mean some outcomes of the project, by taking an action as a citizen. I mean, by taking the responsibility on yourself, by using the tools that are at hand, and by using your own civic rights for expression, or for mm, for self-expression. I mean, encouraging participation and empowerment. again, as overall, it's what the projects do, maker projects do, and then building the citizenship values is also a big one. So what I wanted to conclude this part on, because the second part of my speech, and I believe I'm doing okay on time, it will be talking more about how exactly the mill is addressed in European Solidarity Corps and Erasmus Plus programs based on the research we did before for SALTO. Here, I just wanted to leave you with a thought that no matter what kind of projects we are talking about, which program it is, which key action it belongs to, and so on. There is a lot of maker activities thinking going on in the planning stage of the projects and then in implementation stage of the project. And both of those are very, very important to have, meaning that the participants, especially young participants, they create their knowledge. They are not using the ready-made knowledge. They're creating their knowledge inside the projects by themselves. And so it's very important that that the projects are designed in the way that foster that knowledge creation, that give them enough freedom to experiment, to iterate, to fail sometimes, and to find another way. That the challenges are there for them to overcome. And so I think there is a way to say that media information literacy and youth participation are like two hands, right hand mill, left hand youth participation, and both of them can easily be autonomous, doing things on their own. But think about how much you can do with your two hands together. How many things you do with your two hands. And especially when it comes to making things, that's important to unite both. Now, I think rushed through a lot of things, and maybe a lot of things are left hanging. And I hope that in our Q&A session, you might want to maybe highlight those things that you would like me to talk more about or to explain again. But now I will want to move on to the parts of our research that we did last year. And it was about evaluation of the projects from 2021 in Erasmus Plus and European Solidarity Corps programs, and seeing how many of those projects have a mill focus and then youth participation focus as well. But today I'm going to focus more on mill. And where are the gaps perhaps in those projects? So again, this is going to be a lot of echoing of the presentation I gave last year, and you will have all the links to the full presentation. It's about 20 minutes and you can watch it. There is more detail in there, and then the full report that you can read. The report, by the way, is featuring also the examples of the projects that we've been looking at. So those have short summaries, and then you can read through them and see what exactly we were talking about. So let me just give you a little overview of the process we had. So we had a search of projects in Erasmus Plus and European Solidarity Corps databases from 2021. We were clustering those according to the thematic areas of MIL. And then we did qualitative analysis of the representative sample of projects. Then we also did an online survey of the stakeholders, so organizations that are involved with those projects, so ERICA and also 7 national agencies you have on the slide there. And then we did interviews with a few stakeholders, like Estonian National Agency, ERICA, European Youth Press, and Belgian National Agency. And so our, let me just see, our key findings are represented kind of, this is the table we used for kind of presenting the key findings, but I'm also going to just read it from my written form. Here you will see the numbers, but don't be scared of them. It's just something that will support what I'm going to say just in a moment. So MIL in the Erasmus Plus program is primarily represented through the two key actions. Youth participation activities, they're in the red box in the center up on the table, and then cooperation partnerships in youth, also in the red box, and in which every third project is focused on MIL. So that is a healthy, good number. It's quite a lot of projects there. Then the other finding was that developing digital youth work in the green box below there on the table appears to be the top priority for the key action 2 projects, and is also very popular among the projects in mobility of youth workers. You can see the green boxes there below. Then the other finding was that the European Solidarity Corps solidarity projects tend to focus more on the digital skills and competences, the yellow boxes there in the middle. And so do the Erasmus Plus projects under the mobility of young people. It is also the area that received the most number of all MIL-focused projects, both in the EU programs, across both EU programs. Now, the last point I would want to make here is about the gaps that we highlighted. So they are present among the key action 2 in the digital safety, ICT, and media literacy and tackling information thematic areas. So according to the received data, there is a complete absence of projects in digital safety and ICT among the key action 2 small-scale partnerships in youth. Throughout the interviews, we received a recommendation that the projects in the key action 2 should strive to include specific niche organizations that deal with the MIL-related issues, to cooperate with them on the projects in key action 2. So these are the quick summary of the findings from the report, from the research we did last year, and I'm looking forward to more data coming in future years, and let's see if there will be any new opportunity for us to collaborate and find out more about the state of play in the future years. So I'm looking towards the questions today, and I understand that that was quite a lot to perceive, so I hope that there will be questions. Thank you for the attention.
Thank you, Aleksandra. I know I have a couple of questions, but everyone listening in, do write in the chat or in the Q&A section if you have some lovely questions. We also thought today that we would try something new, so I asked both of our guest speakers to also prepare questions for each other. So first, I would now give the floor to Michele. So do you have a tricky or not so tricky question for Aleksandra?
Well, thank you, Juha, and hello, everybody, and hello, Aleksandra. I hope the question is not too tricky, but you spoke about maker culture and how media information literacy can benefit from maker culture activities. So my wonder, more the question is, since I have to speak about video games now, if you ever met something in that field that is somehow tackling the topic of media information literacy, or if you think anyway that there is a way to tackle that topic also through video games.
Hi, hi, Michele. I'm glad to see you again. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot to wonder about. Actually, video games, as I believe, is one of the most popular themes and tools, if we can call it tools, among young people. So there's a lot of things that in video games that can be created by the players, and also, I mean, the whole industry of video games is very much user driven, player driven, and so in that way, I think I've also seen some gaming hackathons. Again, my perception of hackathons is just, okay, if there is a hackathon in the topic, then there is a way for young people just to step in and kind of rule the game and create something in that sphere. And so if there were gaming hackathons, which there were so far as from my own memory, then there is definitely a way for young people to step in and do something about it. So a lot of making, I think, is happening inside the game itself. And I believe it's one of the tools that are most exciting for the young people nowadays. I'm very much looking forward to your own speech today, so to learn a bit more about the topic as well.
Great question, great answer. Thank you both. I personally really liked what you said about, or what you made a parallel on maker activities, which, you know, I'm a proponent of that as well, enthusiast of that as well, and Erasmus Plus and Solidarity Core projects, like looking at the whole development of a project as a creative activity as you would in a maker activity. So I really liked that parallel, and I get the feeling of, why didn't I think of that? Because that's actually a really nice way of approaching it. But my question to you, if I preface it a bit, we are in SALTO Digital looking a lot at building a big picture of what digitalization means for all sectors, and we know that firstly, COVID has kind of put us into a position where digitalization is often seen only as a tool, and the big picture is kind of missing. And now, of course, a lot of talk is around AI, all these recent developments on ChatGPT and others, what they mean for the both formal and non-formal education sectors. So my question to you would be around resilience. How do you feel that exploring media information literacy topics should kind of gain more resilience in maybe future crises or future technological developments, both for young people and for staff as well? Do you feel that there is a benefit there? If we focus more on MIL, are we more resilient in the future? What do you think?
Yeah, I am a firm believer in becoming a better human through becoming more resilient, also as a citizen, through gaining media information literacy, as any other literacy in question, really. If we're talking about, back in time, right? If we're talking about basic literacy, now, how much did people gain through just becoming literate, basically literate? How much did they gain? How much civic power did they gain through just learning, how to read, understanding basic concepts, and just having a say in things around them in their social life? Now, if we're talking about media information literacy, now we're talking about critical thinking. We're talking about understanding media landscapes. We're understanding, the nasty things that propaganda does to us. For example, nowadays, very, very up to the time topic. It's something that definitely makes a human a more intelligent one, in a way that, and in a way more resilient to all the endeavors that the contemporary times give us. So it's I believe that with promoting media information literacy, but not just promoting as, hey, media literacy is important, but actually proving that through making people do things. Again, making people make things and do things with their own minds, with their own brains, with their own hands, and influence, seeing the influence that they can make on the world through their actions, through posting on social media, through starting a podcast, through shooting a video and making a social campaign, for example, seeing the influence that they can make on their little social circle, or maybe even a larger one, like on a global scale, perhaps even, that is what is transformational. And that is, I believe, what builds the resilience in people. So I don't know, it kind of was a passionate question and a passionate answer, but I hope someone can make a sense out of it.
Well, there is the recording, so people can replay both the question and the answer, because I think both were kind of complicated. So thank you. I don't see currently any questions on the chat yet. So I would propose that we move on to Michele's input and see if we still get probably in the end also questions for both of you. Thank you so much, Aleksandra, for really stimulating input. And moving on to the other side of the coin, Michele, please.
Here I am. Thank you for inviting me and for willing to hear about the topic, which is still by many considered something quite strange. You know, when you talk about video games, it's always this idea that something, yeah, a bit geeky, nerdy. But indeed, and this is one of the facts I want to start from, the video game industry is nowadays actually the biggest entertainment industry in the world. It's been measured that during COVID, video games took over cinema and streaming music together in terms of income. And just to have an idea of the trend, I have here a little image that I would like to share with you. This one. This is the income at the moment of publishing, of the moment of becoming possible to attend movies or play video games. And except for the highest here bar in red, which is Avengers Endgame movie, all the first position are taken by games. This is million US, so we are close to $1 billion from GTA 5 and 750 for Fallout 4 and so on. So this is huge. And this is the first thing I would really like to stress, because every time I speak about video games, I know that someone in some corner of their mind have this idea that, oh, okay, maybe I'm talking about, you know, games for kids. Yeah, this is how games are big. And the other fact is they're not just for kids. So I don't have time here to bring statistics about the users, but we are now in a situation where people all ages are playing video games, and it's not only something only for male mainly audience. There used to be a very strong gender gap in video games, but it's really catching up more and more. So it's a very big thing. Not only among young people, but quite big for sure among young people. And this is one starting point. The other starting point is from the field. I've been a youth worker since last century, as I like to say, and long time practitioner, like on the field. And what I know for sure is that non-formal education, youth work is strongly rooted into using games as tools. But for some reason, these kind of games are not so common and not so commonly used. in the sector, in the field. So I made like a commitment myself to start to explore a bit this thing a bit more and to see what could be done using video games in non-formal context. So a couple of pictures just to show what I'm talking about, but talking about situations like this, for instance. This is the National Internet Fest of Italy in Pisa, where I normally have a workshop using like video games to tackle different elements of learning. Kids 11, 12, 13, with their teacher, the school teacher, play video games and then think about the experiences and the learning they got out of them. And often, very often, teachers are amazed and totally shocked by the amount of elements of learning that could be identified in a short video game session. And this is a group picture, 15 young people, more or less 12, 13, 14 years old, during lockdowns. I used to do this thing of having the kind of summer school, summer camps in which for a week in the morning we used to do something with computers, either maker oriented, so we are still connected to what Aleksandra was explaining before, and video game connected with the idea of creating something from our side. During lockdown, I tried to fully establish something online, and this is a group of young people from Bari, south of Italy, to Lecco, very north of Italy, connected together for a week with me in a specific world of Minecraft that I created for them. And they, in these days, managed to build the castle behind them and all the decoration and the whole world around them, and to have fun and to learn how to stay together. And this is the final group picture. So talking about things that are happening around for quite some years already. Then why video games and participation? Because I was presenting some of these experiences in the tool fair, which was held in Porto a couple of years ago, I guess. And in that workshop was participating also Kadri Maripu, which should be connected here somewhere because I read her name, from SALTO PI. And then we had quite a conversation about the possible use of video games in educational context and so on. And then I was then asked and approached to try to investigate a bit more this topic, this field, and the existence of practices that could be shared in the participation pool website, which is the tool that SALTO Participation and Inclusion uses to promote, collect, and make available all these kind of materials. So I started a bit of a journey. I knew I could, of course, tell about my own experiences, but I wanted also to look around and see if we had more. And well, this is the final result. One more screen sharing. I promise it will be the last one. This is the index of a publication that we created and which is now freely available for download on the participation pool website. It has 3 practices analyzed, but indeed it's 4 different activities with, anyway, 3 video games. One is Minecraft, then Among Us, and then Civilization, and then again back to Minecraft. And what I'm also very happy that we could achieve is this introduction part where we had the possibility to go a bit deeper into why talking about video games as an educational tool and why video games specifically in participation. Just in case you want to see the whole page, this is the place where on the participation pool website, you can either here click and download the whole publication or read it directly here on site and click to go to the different sections and parts of the index, which are down here. Then I guess I can also put the link in the chat so that it's available for everybody. So let me just do it. There you go. So what do we have here? We have experiences. One is mine, as I briefly summarized it. A group of young people in that one experience, younger people, I would say, so 9, 10, 11 years old, staying together, playing together for a week with me, and fostering their decision-making skills, because they had to do something that I asked them to do, build stuff, design stuff, create stuff, make stuff. So we use the same word of Aleksandra's. And of course, even more complicated being online, but anyway, being a group of young people that age, the ability of find an agreement is not really very strong. So they had to go through a process and learn and foster, as I said, their possibility to discuss, debate, take decision, takes informed decision, and then review them, and so on, which are basic participation skills, which many times are forgotten. Always think about my building meetings with other people living with me, and I wish they would play a bit with my kids and foster the decision-making practices before coming to the building meeting. Another very interesting practice comes from Finland and has been developed by Panu Rasanen, which again is a name that I've seen in the list of participants. Yeah, he's raising the hand there. And I find it very interesting because it's even more connected to participation, in this case, in terms of civic participation. So as you will read, it's a group of young people with him leading them, who designed in Minecraft a revised version of the public garden of the town, so that the local authorities could use this design made by young people inside a video game as a model to renovate the garden, the real one where the boys and girls would then spend their time and play together. So directly connecting also video games and reality, and having from the video game a direct impact on reality. Of course, this needs to connect together local authorities, young people, abilities to use video games in that direction. And this is what youth workers nowadays should also be engaged into. Also, because of course, classic youth works will never die, let's say, but it's of course changing and being transformed by the digital transformation of everything. So these are also good examples of how youth work actually can become also something else and apply to digital spheres and digital activities. So for instance, you see more activities using Minecraft are coming. Very good, very interesting also to dive into that. And the last activity I collected is using actually 2 different video games, always to foster and practice decision-making processes. One is Among Us. You may have heard of it. It was very popular like a few years ago during the lockdown. It's basically a digital version of the very old youth exchange game, The Werewolf, in which someone is responsible of a crime, but you have to find out who they are. And again, in this process of defining who is the culprit, agreeing and discussing and debating and having to send someone out of the spaceship, so sentencing them to death. It's a silly game, it's a little game, but it's really tackling interesting, very interesting elements of decision making and debating among young people playing. Another element that is described as a possible tool to foster participation through video games is another very famous video game, is Civilization in its 6th iteration. The game is about developing your own civilization on planet Earth from cave age to the stars. And of course, it depends on your decision making together with other players which are playing with you. The very interesting thing is the last iteration of the game also included environmental impact of your choices. So, for instance, you want to create a mine to extract some minerals to improve your industry and become a bigger power in the play together with the others. Of course, you can, but then opening a cave, a mine, it will have an environmental impact, will affect the weather, will affect the quality of the water, and so on and so forth. And you can also bring up an advisory panel which will give you actual scientifically proved data-based advice on the impact on the impact of the activities you plan to do. So these are like 3 examples. But what I was saying is that in the first part, in the introduction, we also tried to dig a bit deeper into the bigger picture. So the bigger picture is, for instance, the decision we had to go for mainstream games. So Minecraft, Among Us, Civilization, all of them are games sold in millions of copies worldwide. So the games that many people would anyway play. And we decided to find an educational way to use that same product, because many users would anyway have it handy, and because we think it's also important to show that what is being already used by young people can itself imply some educational value that it's up to us, young youth workers, trainers, and so on, help young people to extract, identify, self-assess, let's say. What else? Since we wanted to also explain a bit how to practically set up these things, we spent also parts of the publication in explaining how the games work and what is needed to actually play. And we tried to make it very, very, very simple, but without leaving out some reference to what is already become a branch of studies, so video games studies. Not so commonly mentioned, but with already quite an interesting bibliography, a list of titles and some stars which are quoted, like, for instance, Professor James Paul Gee, which in the US have been studying the impact of video games on non-formal and formal educational sector for many, many years, with also very interesting data that is collecting on the impact of using video games in literacy. For instance, discovering that young people having to read some text randomly chosen can improve their reading skill up to a level, but if the text that they are asked to read is somehow connected with the game they love to play, the level of motivation will help them improve their reading abilities a lot more. So again, it's something that in formal education is a bit more present as an idea. So start from your target group motivations and interests, but video games help to bring it back from the window, maybe also in the educational system. So what we did here is, as I said, a collection of practices, also a way to practically show other practitioners or anyway people which are interested in giving a shot that it is possible, it is not complicated, and it can be done, and possibly also used in a way that learning is clearly identifiable. All of these needs, and with this I would like to close and maybe leave floor to your questions. And also I want to browse all the links that I'm getting from our participants from France, which I'm now super interested in into browsing. But I was saying that the last thing that I want to mention is that the key figure in all this process, once again, is the youth worker. So it's duty of the youth worker either to set up a space in which games can happen safely, be aware of which games should be offered to which kind of young people in terms of age and whatever else condition they may be in. And most importantly, it's again up to youth workers to be in charge of the debriefing process and discussing the experience and getting out of the experience the learning that can be extracted and shared among the young people which participated in playing the game. This can be a one-shot experience. This can be a longer experience. Many of these games, for instance, Civilization, really give their better result when they're played for days, maybe in a row, or for weeks even in a row. So it can also be a longer term activity to be built around this concept. And well, it's the first review, let's say. Doing this review, I managed to get in contact with a few other experiences and a few other subjects in Europe, studying and starting to explore these aspects. And I think that there is a lot of promising and interesting possibilities in this field to explore, even because young people will anyway be there playing these games. And I love to say it's up to us to decide if leave them there, which can also be an option. Come on, if they are playing, or anyway, try to make something out of this energy, of this commitment, of this time spent by them in playing this video game, trying to incorporate their passions, their interests, their motivation in the youth work we are offering them, as I think it should be always in plans of youth workers. So that said, I'm very curious to, as I said, browse all the links that have been posted, and also on the other side, listen for questions and any kind of comment and remarks about the work I was curating the publication and writing one of the chapters. The other one, as I said, is by Panu Rasanen, who is here. The third one regarding civilization and Among Us is by another trainer, Carmine Rodi Falanga. And the introduction is written by Kadri Maripu by SALTO PI. And some of them are also here, so maybe questions could be also addressed to them. Okay, thank you for the attention.
Thank you, Michele. So as Michele said, a lot of expertise in the room, so type out your questions if you have them. Aleksandra, do you have a question for Michele?
Revenge.
Wait, yeah, there. Well, first, thank you for very exciting presentation. And I was so surprised about the variety of things people now can do in video games, like you mentioned, building cities and so on. This is just it just made my day, I need to say. My question is, because I can't help but think about media information literacy, could you mention any games that are related to particularly that topic, into maybe young people learning how to use media and influencing, I don't know, public opinions with it, or learning how to go around fake news or something?
Well, at least the first two titles coming to my mind right now. One of them, we just used it with my organization here in Italy during a school exchange in framework of Erasmus Plus. And the topic was fake news and information. And this game has been developed by Cambridge University together with the Dutch organization, which is now falling away from my mind. But anyway, it's called Get Bad News. It's a simple, free online game in which you impersonate a fake news creator. And you have achievements and levels, a number of followers. The more you spread around incorrect information, the more people will follow you for the wrong reasons. And it's, of course, if and when driven by some youth work around it, a very impactful way to start up discussions with young people about how fake news work and which is the emotional response they look for, and so on and so forth. Another one is actually a couple of them, because there'll be an episode 1 and episode 2. Is called Orwell. Well, the names, it already says a lot, and it's some kind of dystopian, not so far in the future society in which global control of your posts and material that you share online, which is nowhere to be found, of course, nowadays in our real world, I mean, where this kind of situation affects some people who are protesting for some local problems, local issues in their communities, and it scales up very quickly to building up a resistance movement, putting up a fight, find a way to escape the repression out of those, and very, very interesting. So I would say Orwell, and the second episode, which again, not remembering now the name, but if you look for Orwell video game, then it will be appearing there that there is a second episode coming. These two are, yeah, for sure useful in that direction. Then there are for sure more and more which are not now coming to my mind, but these two for sure. Orwell, very good, very good. Already appeared in our chat, so for sure. This could be a starting point for some attempt in that direction.
Thank you so much, Michele.
Welcome.
Thank you. Great stuff. We'll add all the links in our house page as well, so you can access them after the fact there as well. I will cheat a bit because I actually have a question for both of you, and we can conclude this bit on that, then let people end the recording and let people open their cameras and microphones to talk more. But the question to both of you, since you are really talking, of course, due to your backgrounds, from a very like youth-centric, as a field, youth-centric standpoint. So my question to you would be, because again, we work cross-sectorally and some of the people here present also work with the different educational sectors. From your viewpoint, what do you feel like the youth field, and especially your kind of approaches in the youth field, what would they have to offer for the formal education sectors, whether it's primary education or maybe higher education or whatever? And what would you like to see more in the youth field adopted from the formal education sectors? What is there to learn on both sides would be the short version of that question.
Can I? While like Aleksandra is thinking about it, I can try to give an answer, a quick one at least. Youth work for me, as I try to explain, it's very effective when it's mediating between young people and their own experience. So I think in video games, but in general, in every digitally transformed aspect of nowadays experience, that's where youth work could and should make a difference in young people experience. So being there when they play video games, being there when they watch YouTube movies, videos and stuff, and asking the right questions. Starting to exercise critical thinking about the things which often young people give for granted because it's the only possible approach that they always had. On the formal sector, what I would love to see more is, again, finding ways of making learning more intriguing. For instance, again, using video games. Now, it should really don't get me started because I can go on for days, but the series of games, Assassin's Creed, very famous, very assassin, so probably not maybe the best game to play in a classroom. They are very famous because they always try to rebuild with a very, very high level of details, the historical landscape they set the different episodes into. And now they delivered a few years ago only the settings without the assassins. So you can go to old-time Athens or pyramids or whatever else and just explore and really have a very immersive experience of ancient architecture and meet people there and talk to them regarding how's life in Athens in the 5th century BC and so on. So seeing more of these things happen in the formal system also would be probably beneficial for the system itself. So having young people more like engaged and happy to go to school and to learn in a way which is not books and people talking anymore. I know that in many cases this is already old story, but still. Would you repeat the name of that game? I guess we're talking about Assassin's Creed and this special series of games without the assassin. They have a special name that I have to find, and as long as I find, I will put it. Yeah, Discovery Tools, very good, very good. We have experts anyway in this group, so perfect. Yeah, okay, Discovery Tools in Assassin's Creed. It's just a little bit of an answer, but I guess makes a bit sense. Aleksandra, I leave it to you. Go on.
Yeah, great to see such engagement from the audience as well. Lots of fans of the games, I believe. I absolutely agree with you, Michele. I totally sign up to all of what you said. What I just wanted to, maybe the first also the thought that I had was, to see more collaboration between the formal and non-formal education. I mean, these two worlds are developing in their own ways, like two different two different galaxies. And I would want to see more, because young people, it's the same young people that go to one galaxy and to another one, and I want to see more blended approach in both. And yeah, because personally, when I was a student, we did have, for example, video games, opportunities to play video games, but it was only during the breaks and during the out of school hours, and there was nothing, there was no curation, no guidance given during those times. But I think that was a very much integral part of our own learning and social engagement with each other. And so I believe that there should be more blended approach.
If I may add something on top of that, I have in mind this very interesting experience by a university, actually. So it's the Karl University in Prague, and they established their own in-house software house to publish video games about history. So they made one first video game called Attentat 1942, in which basically you get to investigate the attentat against the Nazi headers of the invasion of Czech Republic by Nazi army. And then there is a second one, the Svoboda, sorry, Czech people, I really can't pronounce your language, but Svoboda 1945, something like that, which is about the transition to communist regime. And it's university teachers being engaged in designing video games about history. So you see, something is really starting to happen. And this is very, very, very good from one side, and I think it should be a place to be as practitioners, experts, educators, and so on, while this transformation is happening. Yeah, thanks, Pavel, for explaining me how to pronounce correctly Svoboda.
Thank you both. Do not go anywhere. As a brief intermission, at this point, I will say thank you to everyone watching after the fact on YouTube, and we will end our recording here. Next session, which is on the 25th of May, we will talk about artificial intelligence with representatives from both the European Commission and the Youth Partnership. So that will be exciting as well. But we will continue our Q&A session internally here, but everyone on YouTube, thank you for watching. See you next time.